guys, how's it going? This is Tom Burkhart from Car Revs Daily with the amazing 2018 Genesis G80 Sport. This is the all-wheel drive G80 Sport with the 365 horsepower and 3.3 liter twin turbocharged V6 and heavily performance optimized suspension, drivetrain, and looks. What's up, guys? This is Tom Burkhart from Car Revs Daily in the 2018 Genesis G80 Sport. This is the G80 Sport all-wheel drive, and I've got the camera facing me to introduce this video because it is very special. We're going to do a high-performance drive in a few minutes, but in addition to the POV perspective while we're driving, for the first time we have some aerial drones and some high-performance flybys, video footage that will be interspersed with the performance drive. So this car is amazing. It's like Genesis really took my wish list and made it real. So I'm thrilled to review it, and let's go. Let's do it. 4.7 seconds to 60 miles an hour is the quickest that the Genesis G80 Sport has been clocked at, and our test G80 Sport has the only option available on the this model, which is all-wheel drive. So the HTrac all-wheel drive system is rear-wheel drive based and shifts power to the front as needed, but maintains a real rear bias in its handling feel and overall performance credentials. So great car, and tons of upgrades versus the standard Genesis as well as the G80 5.0. So very strong machine. Let's flip you facing forward and we'll head out on the twisty roads. All right, G80 Sport. So the structure of this review, let's talk about what G80 is, what the upgrades to the G80 Sport are, and how those upgrades really play out on the road in the real world. So G80, of course, full-size luxury sedan with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive with a V6 or V8 from pricing of just $44,000. So big back seat, incredible luxury feel and handling and performance for all of its variants, including the base 3.8 liter V6 with 311 horsepower. It's still pretty plucky. It delivers about a 6.6 second 0 to 60 time, so that is definitely down versus some of the more potent twin turbocharged and turbocharged or supercharged 6 cylinders from BMW, Jaguar, and Mercedes these days. So that 3.8 really competes most directly with like the BMW 530 with that Turbo 4, or the E250 these days, or E300. So with that 6.6 second time, it is an entertaining and premium car to drive on the road, but really lacks that little extra bit of handling prowess as well as performance look outside. So that's from about, so G80 3.8 with all-wheel drive and the ultimate package, you could load up to about 53 or 54. So from about $51,000, you have a 5 liter V8 making 420 horsepower and 383 foot-pounds of torque. So this G80 Sport slides right in between those two and really matches the performance of the 5.0 in all but the V8 Sonics. So you know, the sounds that the engine makes. So this G80 5.0, or excuse me, G80 Sport comes in with 365 horsepower and 376 foot-pounds of torque. So almost exactly what you're going to get in terms of torque from the V8, but it arrives actually much lower in the G80 Sport with this 3.3 liter twin turbocharged 6-cylinder. So all of that torque arrives from like 1300 RPM, I believe, or something ridiculously low. And it definitely feels like that on the road. This is a very speedy machine. So other upgrades for the G80 Sport, I mean, it's a pretty, there's no body panel changes beyond the rear bumper for the quad exhaust pipes in the G80 Sport versus the square pipes, square dual pipes in the 3.8 and then quad pipes in the 5.0. So no sheet metal changes beyond the new grille and new bumpers, front and back, I should say. So, but beyond that, the car is like almost a totally new machine. You've got a full black chrome blackout for the entire bodywork. So all of everything that would be chrome or like a brushed silver effect is now black chrome. It's sort of like a satin, smoky, dark finish. And that extends to the 19-inch BBS style alloy wheels with like a 20-inch, or sorry, like a 20-spoke racing pattern and upgraded Disc brakes with Genesis branded calipers. What are their exterior changes? Okay, so we have dual projector LEDs for the low and high beams, automatic high beams, of course, but dual projectors, so they're not bi-operated. They're not, that LED lives in unique projector beams for each function, which delivers better light quality and more light overall. So these are all great things. And then, so refinished nose, and then a really aggressive lower fascia with like a nice, like that black chrome crosshatch performance mesh, and solid look. And then dechroming for the rest of the vehicle, and dark tinted rear headlamps, and then those black chrome quad pipes out back are also unique to the G80 Sport. So the car looks awesome. It looks really, really good. And this all-wheel drive version that we're in now, the HTrac as they call it, really has no benefit in visual ride height. I mean, it still rides low and gangster, and people love the look. It's just a really, really solid machine visually and on the road. So what other substantive changes have been made beyond a brand new 8-speed automatic transmission of Hyundai's own design, or Hyundai, you know, Genesis parent company, of course, of their own design after swapping out the ZF automatics that they used for a little bit? This 8-speed is extremely snappy and pairs brilliantly with the 365 horsepower from this twin turbo 6-cylinder, and that's how it's able to deliver those 4.7 sprint times, 5.0 sprints to in like a rolling start like this, just a touch slower. And that is actually, it either matches or is like dead on equivalent to the V8 Genesis G80. So very, very strong powertrain upgrades go with the bigger brakes. And then another G80 Sport is exclusive are the continuously variable dampers. So you've got the same sort of like plushy kind of compliant ride when you're not really pushing it, but when the car senses that it's under high demands, it will tighten those dampers up even in normal mode, and then in sport mode it firms them up by default and then gets firmer as needed. So that keeps the same spring rates, the same sort of like cushiness, like we said, over bumps, but minimizes any kind of overflow. That the dampers sort of act opposite the springs to keep the bodywork super contained. So by having really, really firm dampers, any kind of float that would exist over a bump is nipped in the bud. So that is very, very positive to report. And then other upgrades inside are pretty dramatic. As you can see, we've got real carbon fiber and real aluminum trim here. A new shifter, instead of just a shift lever, you have an electronic selector with push button park and a single control that stays in the same place for drive, neutral, and reverse. It's super intuitive and really, really easy to use. There will be no learning curve for this new transmission shifter, but it does bring benefits like auto hold, so you can have the car, as you come to a stop for a stoplight, you can take your foot off the brake. So that auto hold needed that electronic parking brake, and it benefits from this new shifter control. We've also got a brand new steering wheel, which is much thicker, has integrated paddles, and this gorgeous sort of perforated leather in the handholds, and then copper effect for the stitching. This copper accent look is really pretty holistically applied to the G80 Sport, in that it also appears in the central clock face, as well as the center caps of the wheels outside, in the projector bezels around there, and then the edge of the grille is sort of copperized in a nice contrast, especially for an all blacked out car like this black example. It really has sets off the shimmery metallic black paintwork exceptionally nicely. And as you can hear, this new 8-speed has very, very responsive controls to the paddle shifters. So it really will get you into first, and it really will obey around corners as needed. It really is quite obedient and effective with its yaw-based sensors, like keeping me in third gear right now, for example, as we accelerate well past legality. So the other upgrades to the cabin include like that carbon fiber, like we said, and then full Alcantara, dark headliner, and all of the optional equipment on the G80 3.8 is basically made standard. So that includes like this giant moonroof with power operated Alcantara, soft touch suede liner that is a full blackout, as well as vented seats and the upgraded Lexicon stereo, and 9-inch display for the nav and infotainment, And what are some other upgrades from the G80 3.8 all-wheel drive? Let's see. Things like automatic high beams and, oh yeah, and all the active safety stuff is now standard. So you've got automatic braking, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist that is remarkably effective, blind spot monitor, cross traffic. You know, you've got the works here, keeping you safe. Yes, this gentleman. So it really is exceptionally well equipped as standard. From the G80 Sport is priced from about $55,000, and then this example with all-wheel drive and delivery is about $58,000. So, as I'm doing this little course, I mean, this is a stunningly rapid pace. I haven't really needed to brake as much in corners because I'm so confident with the all-wheel drive system, and I'm really pleasantly surprised with the new dampers. They really don't have too much of an effect on the ride quality around town, but as you really start to push it, this is where Genesis G80 V8 and the 5.0 sort of, that corner in particular is where the V8 lost a little bit of handling composure. So this G80 Sport with its CDC shocks really seems to be remarkably better at keeping the vehicle tied down. The steering is feels firmer and quicker than ever before. I'm not sure if it's a different rack or different settings versus the standard G80, but I believe it is because it feels so good. Brakes feel really strong under feet, and the all-wheel drive traction is just unflappable. So really a stellar makeover for this G80 Sport that really brings it into contention with vehicles like the E43, the BMW 540, and perhaps even the M550 in some respects, at least like its visual coolness, if not its sheer pace versus that twin-turbo V8. But a lot cheaper than any of those rivals, and a lot bigger than rivals like from Infiniti in the Q50, and some of the other players like the Volvo S90. Actually, Volvo S90 is about the same size and feels about as modern, but bigger than the Jag XF and Lexus GS, and feels a lot more satisfying to drive than either of those. The XF is almost too futuristic, maybe perhaps, and the GS just feels really old-fashioned. Whereas this car, you get in, and on first sitting, you're immediately ensconced in this real luxury feel. Oh, we do have sport seats, I should say, as standard, with nice adjustable bolsters and extendable seat base squab for the driver. We'll go. Which way should we go? We'll go right. We'll keep talking. Sport seats are fabulous. They offer a really, really nice level of driver support and long haul comfort. I'm struggling to come up with anywhere where I would love to see the Genesis G80 grow from here, because this is such a nice achievement. They've really made a fantastic car that I think is as fun to drive as the BMW 540, with all its options like the M Sport and active differential and lots of those other options that can take like that $65,000 base price of the 540 up to about like 80 or 90, which is crazy. So for the G80 Sport to be as fun to drive as that car is a big, big achievement, and I'm very proud of the G80 engineers. So this is a really, really strong machine, a very enticing option for luxury shoppers, and something that really just feels more intuitive and more naturally luxurious versus like tacked on materials and what have you than even like the Cadillac CT6 or Lincoln Continental, both of which kind of suffer from inconsistencies in their luxury and drive experience. Like they might feel super luxurious, but they drive kind of in a less special way in terms of the Continental. And then CT6 feels like too techy for its own good. It has four-wheel steering for most of the V6s, both V6s I should say, and only all-wheel drive available. It's a much less pure all-wheel drive feel than this G80 Sport HTrac, which of course also is available in rear-wheel drive. So, strong competitor here. I'm a big fan of the G80 Sport, in case you can't tell. And the only place I can really think where I would, as a gangster or wannabe gangster luxury car driver, would be a little bit more enthusiasm from the exhaust note. Even when taking exhaust note samples, which we'll cut to now, from outside the car, it's a pretty mild and sort of like just a really whooshy exhaust note. Sort of in that GTR style of like you can't actually hear the engine sonics as well as you can with a naturally aspirated motor. And that's of course because the output gases, like the exhaust gases, instead of going right out the pipe and resonating really cleanly, in all turbocharged engines, and especially twin turbocharged engines, all of that stuff is cannibalized and reused and reshot back into the engine to generate boost. So in that, you have just more of a closed loop system that doesn't allow really delicious sonics. This car does sound extremely enthusiastic from the driver's seat, with a big sort of like, you know, that sort of a turbo boost feel and sound from inside the car, but definitely not loud outside, and not much sound exhaust coming from that exhaust whatsoever, even with those quad pipes. But hey, the speed is here, and the in-gear power is here. The ability of the transmission to act more rapidly for performance drivers is here, and the overall lightness of the V6 versus a V8 in the front of this vehicle is here as well. So those are all really, really strong additions to the G80 lineup, and one that will help this car be even more successful in conquesting sales from everybody we've mentioned and more. So extremely strong vehicle. And then beyond that, you have some of the benefits of Genesis's launch range, which includes like 3 years of free everything. You get like free remote and app-based controls for the Blue Link for 3 years for free. There's free servicing where they'll come and pick up the car when it needs its oil change or whatever, and deliver it back to you when it's done. And there's a number of other things that are free for 3 years that otherwise, as well as like complimentary maintenance for 3 years, which almost all of the manufacturers have cut at this point, or drastically reduced. Especially from BMW, where it's now like a $2,000 or $3,000 option. That stuff is all standard on Genesis to sweeten the deal. So terrific machine, something that is just objectively better than GS and Jag XF, I would say, and on par for modernity and satisfying the satisfaction of ownership versus the incredibly good Volvo S90, and now really, really genuinely close to the enjoyment and driver enthusiasm rewards that you get from BMW and Mercedes. I'm a huge fan, and I hope you guys are too. One drive of this car and you'll be like, okay, now I see what he's talking about. It just feels so good. Even on this really choppy version of the country road here, the car stays immediately dead arrow, pointed straight ahead, genuinely smooth and fairly comfortable ride quality, even with massive grip and 19-inch 275 series tires in the back. Really just fantastically balanced proposition. So what else? Are we missing anything? I think that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the drone aerials. Certainly a beautiful car in motion as well as parked. Go check out the G80 Sport and you will not regret it. Thanks. See you guys next time. This is Tom Burkhardt from Car Rev.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited to see how this turns out.